one sentence, how would I describe today? I'd describe today eventful, information-packed, and beneficial.
Here's what we're going to talk about. Let me tell you what's happening, which has been said previously. I'm going to say with a southern accent. The service, the most profitable, retention-driving aspect of everyone's dealership, is undergoing a transformation. And it's a transformation that is long past due. What we have to begin thinking in the new world is think like the customer. If we take the customer in mind and make our decisions about what the service drive of tomorrow is going to look like, how you're going to adapt these technologies, how you're going to introduce and get your teams bought into these technologies, it is going to be game-changing. And I saw an article in Forbes a week or so ago that 70% of current job skills, just job skills, are going to be dramatically different in the next 4 years. That's real. You got to get on the train or we'll get left behind. So I know I don't have to say that. You're all here because you know that. Just want to remind you one more time. So thinking like the customer. You know, our customers today can track a $12 package from Amazon from shipping to your door. Last weekend I was in Phoenix. I got into a car with no driver. And that driver drove me up, that non-driver, drove me all around Phoenix. First time I did, I was blown away with the things that are happening in our lives. I'm a little older than most of you here. We're living in the greatest time ever in technology. And AI, what's happening in the service world, is going to be like the invention of electricity. It's going to be amazing. These two are deep into it. Let me introduce my panel up here today. So we've got, first of all, Kenny Warren. Kenny is a senior manager at Toyota, SmartPath, Lexus, Monogram. He has a tough job in hanging on to a job. He's only been with Toyota for 35 years, so he must be difficult to work with. But he's likely forgotten more about the OEM world than most people will ever know. So let's give a hand to Kenny down here. And then Dylan Rundle, who is the Senior Manager After Sales Strategy at Mazda North America. He also has trouble hanging on to jobs. Only been there 18 years. Unheard of in today's world. He's had executive positions throughout the organization, including sales and parts. He's really fascinating with the things that he's done with Mazda to integrate MPI with his technicians, and they're getting amazing responses and ROIs out of this. I can't wait to share that with everybody. So let's get started with the first question. The anchor question. It's 2026. Can't believe that. And service departments very often are given a experience from 2019, right? Customers are, as we all know, skeptical about bringing their car into a service department. They're skeptical of the price. They're skeptical of being steered down the wrong path, being taken advantage of. AI does a lot to eliminate that. But the big problem we're facing in the industry is loyalty. And you all know that loyalty is created in the service department. But that loyalty is dropping. It's dropping like it's never dropped before. And now is our opportunity to learn from these gentlemen how to turn that around. Get our customers back more than 2 or 3 times in the first 2 or 3 months or a year of ownership. Because that's who they're going to buy their next car. So these guys got to dial in. So tell me, where is, this is an uncomfortable question, but let you guys handle this. The service drive from today compared to where it should be and what it used to be. What is happening with retention within your opinions, your experiences, that has driven buying service? What are you seeing with all the work you're doing in improving retention through the operations that y'all are putting in place? Dylan, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Dylan Rundle, Senior Manager of Strategy. Thank you for having me. I think across the industry, what we're seeing is almost all manufacturers are backsliding in retention. Those are manufacturers that sometimes give away the free service, the first free service, or years of free service, and that doesn't keep the customer. In fact, not to speak ill of BMW, but BMW has a fascinating case study in how they incentivized a service package that was below cost to keep the customer in the store after their service, paid for service that comes with buying a new car is over. And that was successful for them. However, after that 3 years ends, the customers, for the first time, is actually seeing what it would cost to service a BMW, and they immediately defect. The reason for that is the customers never had an understanding at the outset what the car's service would cost, and after getting it for a few years, and then maybe a synthetic contract after that, they don't want to pay those retail fees. And because they've never been subjected to them until pretty late in their ownership cycle, they'll typically leave. So a good friend of mine over at BMW, I said, well, what are you doing after that 3 years ends if you sell them that synthetic package? They said, well, we sell them another one. Okay. Clearly that's not the right way to do things because it's costing the manufacturer, it's slowing the market considerably. Mazda doesn't do that. We don't provide service up front for free. Our dealers are pretty good about taking care of their first service. But what we want to do in the first service to lock them in is build the trust right. And so what that looks like is end to end, from the beginning of the customer's service experience till the end, we're making it as best we can a one-for-one unique experience. Meaning that the front door of the service department is where? I can tell you it's online, and it's your digital service. And if that's not managed on a daily basis by service managers, ensuring they have the right number of folks in, they've dialed in the amount of appointments they can absolutely handle, they're going to be leaving money on the table. What we see many dealers, because the technicians don't want to have new cars that start service late in the afternoon, you'll see these guys standing around late in the afternoon and losing their capacity, right? And you can't replace those out. Once they're gone, they're gone. So up front, what we do to build in that trust is, first of all, ensure that everything the customer could want that beats the aftermarket, because I'm not fighting with Toyota here. Right? I hope he wins and I want to win. I'm not trying to service Toyota, which is great. But knowing up front, going back to the Amazon model, if you go into your service scheduler, you get to your services page, and as a customer, you go to select, let's say, an oil change. What if there's no pricing? That's most dealers. They don't have pricing online. And so you've already lost the first time you have the ability to build trust up front by not being real with what you're actually going to charge the customer at the outset. The other way to do it is you'll see dealers trying to sell packages that are well beyond what factory recommend, including what we like to call the royal flush, or we're flushing the customer's wallet down the toilet with coolant service, brake service, transmission service, things that the cars may or may not need, and they're providing no reason for them besides saying we inspected it and it's needed. Well, that's not enough in video supply. So as we move from ensuring the customer understands the pricing to getting into a video inspection, we're finding that we're trying to coach people rather, that you're looking for that upsell opportunity once you're into the MPI or video inspection. That's where you sell the ASR. You don't sell the ASRs up front right away, because if you do, you're running that price tag up, and the guy down the street that's the aftermarket is going to answer the phone and go, that 30K? Oh, well, the dealer's telling you all sorts of nonsense. No, that's not what it is. And I came from the aftermarket. I used to beat the dealers all the time, bringing customers this way. So I think dealers need to understand that we need to provide a competitive price, not the cheapest, but a competitive price to the aftermarkets in your local area. And so we coach the dealers on that as well. During the MPI, the whole inspection process is filmed every time. inclusive of measurement on batteries, brakes, and tires. We don't tell the customer you have 30 seconds left on your tires because they don't know what that means. It means nothing to them. What we use is a red, yellow, green approach. And selling the green is as important, if not more important, than selling the red. Because when you sell the green, you're building trust. You're absolutely telling the customer, you don't need that today. That's a significant amount of credibility that you build right up front. At the end of the service, ensuring that the customer understands what they paid for and selling the value over taking the payment is extremely important. So we've added, mobile payment. Much like Apple, if you've ever bought anything on Apple, it's an app. What you'll know is the day you buy the app, is that the day you get charged? It's not, right? It's the next day. And why does Apple do that? Because they want to separate the pleasure from the pain, literally. So the way we use that strategy internally is offering the customer mobile payment up front. Most customers will accept that. Now, when the customer lands, you're not trying to ensure the customer understands the value they paid for based on the price. You're just selling the value and spending the time to look where it should be. So I could go into a lot more, but I'll leave it there for now. Simply put, if you're building trust, transparency, and you're working with the customer to provide a unique one-to-one solution, communicating the way they want, servicing the car that they want, servicing the car as they've asked, providing competent ASRs that are not a heavy put, and they shouldn't be. If you've inspected that vehicle right, you found the ASR or additional services recommended for those that don't know ASRs. You build a lot of credibility, and ultimately, yes, you do see higher ticket prices. And we know at Mazda, because we were maybe the first ones that started the video MPIs back in '07, is that when you build that credibility up front, they will return. And when you do that, the customers are 10% more likely to stay retained, and you're looking at an average ticket about $200 higher had you not done all this stuff. Lastly, imagine trying to put all that into a service department with old school techs who don't want to do any extra work, and then we go about helping the folks in the store understand what that means to their paycheck. And so when technicians initially are pushing back, they don't want to do it, we'll show them, here's what you could possibly attain in your paycheck at the end of the day if you install this process, and then we back it up by making sure it's a couple winners in the shop. Everybody comes on board with that. So it's not just about technology. We're clearly partners with Update Promise. We're about to launch with them. We've chosen them because they are leading edge in the industry in terms of what the vendor can do and how far they're thinking ahead. I'll leave you with this. What was really exciting when I met Curtis and Brandon for the first time is all the things that we knew we wanted to do next with the technology couldn't be done, and the providers that we had weren't ready to do it, or maybe weren't ready to make the investment. But because we've been building not only the technology, but the process into the technology, that typically sticks. Of course, there's turnover, so we got to continue training, but ultimately that's the process Mazda takes. And we are, I can confidently say, we're one of the few and the fastest growing service retention brands in the last 4.5 years, compared to, based on third-party data from Carl. I'll leave it there, thank you.
Beautiful, thank you. How about you, Cleve?
What was the question again?
Tell me what is happening with Toyota in converting the service drive to create more retention with your customers.
Got it. Okay, so we launched the SmartPath platform about 3 years ago. We started working on it in 2020, so we're just about 6 years in. And the reason we did that is because we were seeing a little bit of decline in our retention. I think we probably still have the best retention in the industry across the board for Toyota and Lexus, but we were seeing a decline. So about 15 years ago, if you all remember, we went through the independent acceleration issue back in like 08-ish, somewhere thereabouts. So we implemented what Dylan was talking about. We did 2 years, 25,000 miles worth of complimentary maintenance for the Toyota brand only. And what we didn't see is a lift in our retention. We saw it for the first 12 months, but beyond that, we didn't see that lift. So one thing that we've done this year with 27 model year vehicles moving forward, we're no longer doing 2 years and 25,000 miles. We're doing 1 year, 10,000 miles. We're going to pick up the first two because, to Dylan's point, customers were coming in, the first service they had to pay for was a 30-day, which is a pretty expensive service, and that's a tough one, that tough pill to swallow right out of the gate. So we're doing that, but I think the biggest thing that we're doing right now is our service platform that we have to drive retention, and it's about building trust and transparency. You've heard the panel earlier today talking about the tool. Well, that's all this is just a tool. If you don't properly launch it, properly implement it, properly train, and hold your teams accountable to using it, you're not going to get the benefit of the tool. And if you don't get the benefit of the tool, you're not going to get the benefit of retention. And that's what it is all about. So what we see with technology adoption is the more you use it the way it's intended to be used, the bigger the return you're going to get. And what we have seen is the average Toyota dealer over the last rolling 24 months has seen about a 1.8% increase in repeat VIN visits. So that is a VIN coming back to a dealership more than one time in a rolling 24-month time frame. Dealers that are on a technology platform, specifically our SmartPath platform, they saw an 8% increase in repeat VIN visits. So think that's a 4-time increase in repeat VIN visits over that exact same time. So that's where the technology piece comes into play. And if you don't have the technology in place right now, you need to get one, because if you think about, Dylan mentioned about meeting the guest where they want to be. Think about your own behaviors when you are online. You expect to see pricing for everything that you shop for online, right? Our customers are no different. For some reason, our dealers seem to want to have a different behavior on their website than what you personally expect on every other website that you go to. So just start thinking about your own behavior and what you want to see when you're going to, pick your website, whether it be Amazon, just pick your website. If you expect to see something on a given website and a guest can't see it on your website, that's a problem. So do everything you can to build that transparency with the guests. That's probably the single biggest thing missing today is technology adoption leading to transparency with the guests.
Great response. So on that same line, now I'm going to start with you, Kenny. If you were to just burn the service department staff and start over with no legacy, this is how we've always done it before, describe to me what the service drive of the future would look like in your eyes.
So if I could script it today, it would be every single individual on a service drive, whether they were a greeter or a service consultant, would have a tablet in their hand. The guest would be greeted at the car with the tablet. They would be greeted by name because they know who that guest is, and immediately start into the conversation about why they are there. So this technology thing, you have got to figure out how to adapt what you're doing on your service drive and in your job. Adapt it to the technology. You cannot launch a platform like Promise, for example, today, and come in and think you're going to do things the same way you're doing tomorrow. You have to change up your going to change. After the guest leaves the service drive, I want the communication to be better. Automated communication with texting with the guest, let them know the status of their vehicle. One of the biggest frustrations with a customer right now is I don't know what's going on with my car. So as the car goes through the service process, they get a text letting them know exactly what is going on and where they're part of the process. Going to a technician, every technician, electronic MPI with a video to back it up all the time, every time. Once we get that done, everything again gets fed to the guest, whether with the video MPI, electronic MPI, and any ASR along with an estimate, all get sent at the same time with the guest. Give the guest 5 minutes to marinate on it, whether they're in the lounge or at their house or at work. Give them 5 minutes after all of this is sent to them to digest what is going on. And then your consultant picks up the phone and calls the customer and see if they have any questions. So you should never want to take any of your people out of the equation. What you want to do is put technology into it, and then your people back it up, utilizing the technology. So I want my service consultants calling, I guess, and thanking them for their business because they've already improved the work before I can give them a phone call. So that is your best case scenario, is you adopt all of this technology, but then you hold the team accountable for using it. And I think that's one of the biggest things that is missing right now with some of the larger partners out there. I'll just say X-Time. They are great at launching their product, but that's all they do. They launch their product. They don't train a process to use it. And chances are, if you're using X-Time, you're not seeing them again after they launch. So I'm wanting a piece of technology that is a tool that every one of my team members can use, and then make the service drive, make the shop, make everything more efficient in order to increase your throughput and in return for that retention as well.
Well said. How about you, Billy?
That was a really good answer. What he said, but plus, the only other things I'll add to it is, thinking through how hiring practices are today. I would say we've had a fundamental shift in what we see is the right makeup for the service consultant. It's no longer the guy that can diagnose the car. It's the guy who can execute customer service. So because of the technology being able to take on the brunt of what used to be, the legacy service consultant's job, we found that sourcing folks that already do a really good job at CSI in other business areas, whether it be hotels or even Starbucks, those should be the consultants of the future. Because no longer do they need to be explaining the technology and what's broken to the customer, because the technicians do that now in the service. So, when you tell a technician that you are now completely in control of what you sell based on how great your video is, that goes a long way. And then when they see that actually occur, now they're motivated to continue it and becomes habitual. So the two things I would add would be, standardized inspections up front, having the technicians understand that it's going to drive their paychecks and allows them to have control, and the service consultants to really give that one-for-one unique experience without having all the mumbo jumbo of your alternate broken or something like that.
And I'll just add one quick thing. Joan brought up a great point about the people that you hire. Where's the one place that you go probably fairly regularly, high pressure environment, a lot going on, somebody having to take care of a lot of people at the same time? It's a restaurant. So I spent about 11 years in Lexus Southern area overseeing fixed operations, and the most successful dealer on the planet in fixed operations, Sewell Lexus in Dallas. And those guys frequented some of the higher ends, or they still do frequent the higher end steakhouses in Dallas, and they recruit from those restaurants because they know that those people, A, they know how to talk, B, they know how to sell, and C, they know how to operate in a high pressure environment. You can find the same thing in any restaurant, in any town that you are in. So when it comes to recruiting talent, look outside the automotive industry. When you find somebody at a restaurant that you think might have what it takes to work for you, don't hit them up right there on the spot. Get their name, try to find out the days that they work, and then go back and see them again and get a number and start trying to recruit from that. That is a great way to get involved with people.
So key. Got to think outside our norms, right? Well said. So think about the customer, and evidence you both have shown me data that's clear that when you give them a good experience in the service department, they come back. That's not theory, that's fact. You guys have the data. So here's the question. Why is adoption of something that is so lucrative so inconsistent?
Yeah, I think it's the current issue we have with sourcing technicians and the current age of the technicians that are masters. Many of these folks joined the auto industry when it was completely different, and they're not willing to give up the way it used to be done. I would have liked to go back to the 90s and just live there. that's way cooler than now, in my opinion, but it's gone, right? It's not happening, it's not coming back, the world's changed. So it's, it's helpful if you can get the technician to see the light, and again, it's all about showing them what's in it for them, inclusive of the consultant, what's in it for them, inclusive of the GM, and using calculators with their own data to show what a reasonable growth rate would be. It's GMs that typically are on the sidelines and worried about how many cars they're going to take this month and start looking at the service drive in a different way. The good news is now more people are paying attention because they use our sales up front are not as hot as they used to be, right? And so as soon as the sales department gets a little less popular, the service guys get a lot more popular. And so, improving absorption and profitability has been key for all our Mazda dealers during this time of tariffs and really a wonky economy at the moment that's changing daily. It's really important to make sure that you build that habit into the store and that you've got management that can support that.
Thank you, Bill. So we're up against the clock a little bit here. I want to ask one last question. You both said this, multiple people have said this, but communication. The communication skills of our representatives working for us in the service department is critical. What are some of the things, and you mentioned these to me, Bill, what are some of the things you're doing as an OEM to help train and certify technicians on communication skills?
So probably the biggest thing is we have an incentive for the best service inspection video once a month. And this has been going on for over 2 years. Many of the technicians, and more importantly, technicians in the dealer, are excited to play in this program. We'll select their best video and send it in, and we show the entire company and all the dealers what good looks like. It's easy to forget what a good inspection looks like, so we make sure that there's repetition, not coming down on high from the corporate, cube, as we like to say in the industry, but more importantly from their peers. And when they see some of their peers winning, they typically want to get on the train, and if they don't, they're probably a couple years away from retirement anyway. So you're probably trying to look at how do I grow my own next then. And many of our dealers have gotten very adept at growing their own because you could headhunt all day long and you're just going to be paying a guy a lot of money for him to now look for the next best job for more money, and it's a race to the top, and that leads to really a low profit or no profit.
Good advice. Okay.
So what we do to try to help with the communication side of it is that when we launch our platform at the dealer, we teach work tracks for the consultants to use on the service drive and for the technicians to use during their video, and then we train the process as much as we train the product itself. I'm not too worried if I have an Alabama redneck and they're talking to an Alabama redneck customer because they all speak the same language. What we want is the video to be done the same way every time, regardless of who it is that does the video itself. I don't think that the customers want to hear a perfectly executed, perfectly narrated video. It is okay if it is not that. What we want to make sure is that if I did the video this time and Dylan did the video next time, there's a level of consistency with how the video was presented and what the technician said during the video. That is the most important thing. And I think as the technicians get, they can get more videos under their belt. They're only doing 4 or 5 a day. They do it for a couple of months. Next thing you know, you've got these technicians that were taking 2.5 minutes to do video that should have taken 1.5 minutes, getting that same video done in probably 65 or 70 seconds, and delivering the same message to the guest more effectively than what they did from day one. So I think it's about setting expectations with your team before you launch the technology, training them on how to use the technology, but more importantly, how to leverage the technology to their advantage. Once Dylan mentioned it, once a technician gets a couple of upsells that they wouldn't normally get, they're going to be inclined to do more and more and more. And this is the one thing that I love about this technology is that you are putting the control 100% in the technician's hands, what the customer sees when they get the video and electronic MPI. You get a 15-year-old vehicle needing $4,000 worth of repairs, chances are your consultant's going to be cherry picking what the guest sees and what is intended to be sold. With the technology platforms out there, the technician actually is doing that. The customer is hearing from the doctor, and they're hearing everything that the car needs. And you'd be surprised how willingly those guests are that have a 15-year-old car, how willing they are to spend the money as long as they know why they're spending the money, and that comes with the technician.
Awesome, awesome. So we're going to wrap it up. You guys are incredible. Thank you very much. Let's give them a hand. I heard this said it this morning. I'm going to remind you all one more time. When you leave here today, pick one thing. One thing when you clear that door that you want to go back and change in your business, change in your leadership, change in your coaching skills. One thing. Don't try to do it all at once. As I coach executives and managers, there's a lot of aggressive people out there who need it all done quickly. This is not something that's going to get done quickly. Right? There's the old saying goes, it takes 30 days to form a habit. That's not true. It takes 30 experiences to change a habit. You have to do it 30 times. Once you're there, it's great. You know it, right? And so keep that in mind. Thank you all very much for your attention. I really enjoyed being part of this. Have a great afternoon. I believe it's